champion.
We're going to have to see as we head into the draft here. So the Nidalee removed here by WE. They're going to get rid of the Twisted Fate as well, but they don't respect the Syndra ban here. They're just going to go for Ornn in the top side instead.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder if WE will feel comfortable first picking that themselves. I would expect not. So xiye should get his hands on the Syndra if he wants, and there's the Galio ban that we talked about. And this is going to open up WE to a Volibear pick. And beishang has only played this champion once. Morgan hasn't played it at all, but he is playing it in solo queue, so let's still think of it as a potential flex pick.
Yeah, and you can tell, oh my goodness, we have insta-locks on the other side as well. So clearly both teams coming in with a very set plan here. The Ashe, great for Kramer, also a takeaway from Jiumeng here. Peanut, very comfortable on Graves. The Syndra we were just talking about is something Teacherma has rarely touched this split, but it was his pocket pick back in playoffs when everyone was banning him out.
Yeah, so WE already having a ton of early game power so far with this Jhin, and the Syndra does open up a lot of early game pick potential. Very strong one-item power spike. Going back over to LGD, this has been a very standard first rotation red side that we especially saw a lot on 10.13, where Aphelios is gone. You do get the Ashe and Graves. Sets you up not only for strong pick potential, but also, you know, Graves isn't a jungler with any CC, so getting that in the AD carry role is always valuable.
Look at that Bard win rate right there, 70%, as that's going to be locked in for Mark here. This will be his third game of Bard of the split, and immediately towards bans on missing. We know how much he loves the hook champions. He's been playing that Karma as well, so that's 2 picks removed from him. In the meantime, now Teacherma, gets to pick himself a nice matchup for the mid lane as they ban the Sylas.
Yeah, and, you know, there are certain champions that are fine in the Syndra. The most historic one, obviously, is the Ekko that we'll see some teams go towards. Like, Icon loves picking that matchup. We did see OMG go for it 3 times in their last series, but everything else is pretty... not necessarily a skill matchup, but Syndra can lane fine against pretty much anything, so Teacherma shouldn't have too much of a hard time in this mid lane no matter what xiye picks.
Yeah, wouldn't be too surprised to see things like the Orianna, for example, a very neutral lane in that mid lane. But we'll have to see, because xiye, he is one of these guys that is a bit of a playmaker, right? When he's got the right matchup, when he's got the right champion, he really can make things happen.
I was actually going to say that LeBlanc is probably what he's going to go towards with that ban. So we are getting the Ekko we just talked about. You know, does struggle in the first 3 levels, but if you can get off an early back, you will do quite fine. Can pretty much ignore Syndra in the laning phase, set up for either a flank or a 1-3-1 style draft.
So we get the signature for missing down in the bottom side. I mentioned the hook champions and Thresh. Certainly the one the missing is most comfortable on. Now we finally get beishang on the Lee Sin, something he has been able to make real moves with.
Yeah, so WE just all-around early game pick composition going to be really interesting to see with beishang on this Lee Sin. We saw the highlights of it coming into the match. And LGD, it feels like there isn't any great option into this Volibear in the top side. The Renekton really is the only thing we've seen do quite well in lane. But overall, feels very similar for them, where they have a very strong mid-game, but you have way more scaling elements with the fact that you do have, you know, the Ashe against the Jhin and the Ekko as well.
I love how we're seeing, obviously the Renekton a really great pick into this Volibear, but WE go back to prioritizing Morgan's pick in the top lane once more. This is a tendency we've seen out of WE so many times over the last year.
And let's remember, this is his first game on the Volibear, you know, at least in competitive this split. He has played it a lot in solo queue, but obviously very different. And I want to see where WE goes, because you have 3 lanes that all have ganks set up for beishang, so he's going to have a lot of options with where he can punish.
We'll see where the 2 junglers are going to be punishing here, because as you rightly mentioned, beishang going to be looking for opportunities around the map, but he's up against Peanut, and both of these guys have their comfort champions, right? Lee Sin would have worked for both, Graves would have worked for both. You expect these guys to be coming in very comfortable. And my big curiosity is who's going to be the one putting their foot on the accelerator in the early game.
It's definitely going to be WE when we look at these drafts, because, again, you have set up in mid lane, Lee Sin, Syndra, extremely strong 2v2. If you get in a gank onto Ekko early, he's pretty much completely out of this game. We know Renekton's going to push up in the top side. Lee Sin, Volibear, also a lot of kill potential. You highlighted the hook in the bot lane, so missing always going to have that option as well. You move over to LGD, and it's like, okay, mid-jungle 2v2, not really strong. You have no CC, you have no setup. Top lane, there's opportunity there because you do have a winning matchup in the Renekton. In bot lane, early on, we don't expect to see anything because it is a Bard, and Bard doesn't really have the strongest lockdown or overall laning phase in general.
Yeah, it can be difficult to find and engage with Bard. If you can find the Cosmic Binding, great.
Keep your dreams, Munchables.
Keep your dreams. Them's the rules. Here we go, LPL. It's WE versus LGD. And as Jordan said before, it's WE that have to put their foot down a little bit in the early game. We mentioned before, they only get the lead at 15 in 40% of their games. But 40% of the time, it works every time, Lyric.
Exactly. And I mean, this is a great draft to get that early game lead. So WE feeling really good. And you know, moving over, I really want to see what Peanut chooses, because when you're playing Graves, right? Graves is the type of champion you expect to want to go into the enemy jungle, maybe steal away some Raptors, try to at least get an advantage in CS. But when you do have a mid laner that's going to lose early on, you're not going to have those opportunities available for you. It's going to be a lot more about playing through side lane pressure. But even then, right, we're only looking towards the top side.
I'm excited about this mid lane matchup as well, because Teacherma is bringing out the Syndra, something that we saw from him in playoffs. He's already stacking a wave in that mid lane as well, but xiye more than happy to try and punish him. He's actually managed to get a corrupting potion out. In fact, he's going to use one as well. And
he even dodged the Q, which was absolutely beautiful. And let's remember, if you're going to take this kind of counter matchup in where it is much harder for the Ekko to execute, because, again, you are still a melee champion into a range, Syndra can still land that scatter of the week, but Teacherma would be the guy you go into this matchup against, since obviously Teacherma is known as not the strongest laner. We also saw Mark helping him by giving him a bit of a W next to his tower, so if he does get a bit low, we'll be able to heal back up.
And he'll be hoping for a W off the back of this counter matchup as well, because, you know, we have seen this matchup go awry for Ekko's, but on paper, it should be Ekko favored. As you rightly mentioned, the Syndra not something that we have seen thousands of times from Teacherma. It was the fall back in spring. But it is something that I'm excited for if they're going to prioritize it like this.
Especially when you look at LGD's composition, which really doesn't have any tanks, so you're going to have potential burst opportunities on every member of LGD's comp come mid-game. And going back to that mid lane matchup you just highlighted, because xiye is taking another amazing trade, and this is what you expect, right? He has the electrocute, he just wants these short burst trades. Typically, Ekko just wants to get an early push, maybe back, get a Dark Seal, come back into the lane. Then he could just start spamming Time Winder and really ignoring the lane. Ooh.
The damage out of Morgan, that is disgusting. Peanut's here to try and find himself a bear, but it ain't happening. Morgan won that trade way too hard to get a buy.
And I remember it was actually me and you talking about this where, you know, Volibear in top lane doesn't seem like it has too many bad meta matchups.
Oh, stun in the mid lane. beishang is here. First blood WE.
And great, spamming the emote at the end. And we mentioned this before. If that Ekko starts falling behind early, you know, Teacherma's going to get an item advantage. It's going to be really hard for him to look for these all-in trades, but good job by him to TP and make sure that Teacherma can't find any sort of freeze opportunity. Also going to dissuade him from backing right now, and as we can see, he has no mana.
I'm curious if Peanut is going to try and make some kind of flashy play in the mid lane to punish this, because Teacherma's pretty low on health, has no mana. Morgan is here to protect his mid laner. Scatter the weak isn't going to get a stun. Teacherma flashes out to safety here. Peanut over the wall, though, gets his flash and gets the kill. Now xiye's in trouble as Morgan is desperate to finish the kill, but xiye gets away with it. And now Peanut wants to secure his prize. He's looking for a second kill in this play, but Morgan gets the shield at the last second. beishang's here as well, and Peanut goes down!
And this is absolutely crazy. Great read by Morgan at the start of this play. Teacherma almost outplaying, almost surviving. Ultimately, though, WE coming out a bit ahead and not even losing any CS on the map, because, look, Teacherma TP to the top side.
And, you know, my favorite thing to say about WE was always that they played through friendship and magic, that they're the Star Guardians. It started off as a meme, but you know what? They are the epitome of a team.
When your top laner is hovering around mid turret, there's nothing that says friendship more than that.
Exactly. Like, happy to sacrifice waves to make a play. Missing finds a hook in the bottom side as well. It's going to be Mark pulled in here. Exhaust immediately onto Jiumeng as well, as Kramer is really hammering home in this trade. This is not a good one for WE.
At the same time, though, nothing comes of it in the end, and you actually won out on a summoner spell since Mark did use his exhaust, and this is what we talked about with Ashe Bard, right? It doesn't really have a ton of lockdown, it doesn't have a ton of damage in this early 2v2. So one of the reasons why Bard has never been a staple in the meta is you do struggle, especially against a lot of these engaged champions like the Thresh.
The trading's just going to continue here, and I'm curious about this pick for Jiumeng as well, because the Jhin, not something we know Jiumeng for, it's not something he's played at all this split, but it is a similar theme to Ashe, in that you have that ultimate that's a utility ult. It's there to try and force engages, which is kind of what we know Jiumeng to do with that Ashe pick.
Yeah, it's really interesting because even asking around and talking to teams, they are very divided on it. Some teams think it's a terrible champion. It doesn't belong in the meta. They think it's very easy to draft around, just pick a tankier sort of composition. Some teams do love the proactivity it brings with that ultimate to go toe-to-toe with the Ashe in the mid game.
Peanut going to start the dragon off here as Mark was there as well. Missing. Aggroed the dragon just to see if he could get some damage onto the enemy support, but LGD basically said, we're happy with that. We want to go for this dragon anyway. She has hit 6 in this mid lane, so it does mean Teacherma has to be a little cautious. There is now all-in potential for this Ekko.
Yep, he's not going to feel much threat coming from the Syndra ultimate anymore.
beishang is not going to let this one go without a fight. Sonic Wave is going to land Peanuts. Here, in they go, and the smite is not going to hit from either jungler. It's Mark that gets the dragon.
And that's great to see. W go for it. They know they have the Thresh to get out. If you look at your minimap, Langx also did already rotate over, so they could have potentially gotten a TP advantage had Morgan elected to come in. But overall, great job by Mark.
Yeah, really nicely done on the Bard. Not the champion that you usually expect to be securing the dragons, but if it works, it works. That's the rules here. If we take those, I think is the phrase.
Yes, it is. And speaking of we take those, we see Langx taking an aggressive trade, and Peanut is here.
This is the all-in that Renekton is able to make happen usually against the Volibear. It's not going to happen. Morgan walks away.
Yeah, and I'm surprised isn't going to try to hold the lane. Peanut is still topside, but with beishang heading up now, and it looks like they even had vision of Teacherma leaving the lane. They are question mark pinging them in river, not wanting to look for that play onto Morgan.
I'm a little disappointed, to be honest. I saw the Dominus, and I was like, all right, this is where it gets spicy. This is where they try and shut down the Volibear pick. Bear in mind, the Volibear was the first pick for WE, so a lot of eggs in that basket from the squad on the left of your screen. And you know that Morgan is the kind of guy that is happy to sacrifice his lane. He's picking this so that he can move around the map and make plays elsewhere, as we saw earlier in the mid.
We also know that WE's champion pool is just very strong on blue side. They don't mind getting countered. They much prefer getting these first picks with strong flex champions like the Volibear. And ooh, great death sentence for missing to force out the flash from Mark. But going back to my point, WE are 10-3 on blue side. Like if you were a betting man, this would be a game you're like, okay, well, W are going to win. They're on blue side. This is their strong side. We know they don't really have the champion pools to counter pick, which is obviously what red side is more known for.
Yeah. And obviously, just for context there, their red side, they're 7-7, completely even. Their blue side, though, as you say, 10-3. That's a pretty heavy statistic in their favor. At any best of 5, they want the blue side as many games as they can.
Yep, and, you know, we do see now WE using this pressure, just having their bot lane rotate up for the Herald. They don't even need to fully commit, so they aren't going to lose out too much in the bot side, but trying to take this red. They do have the ward down, so they see Peanut going for this. Obviously, it's right in front of their faces.
Jiumeng kind of has a smite with this 4th shot, and he's going to pull it off. He just crit that for 900.
Yes, he did.
We're 8 minutes in.
And now beishang going to get the red on the other side of the map. Ooh.
Hang on.
Mark.
Tempered Fate in the mid lane. Mark's got to follow it up with the bind. We'll get the stun here, and that's Teacherma going down.
Yeah, and this is what we want to see from LGD's. Actually, both teams have similar globals like this where, of course, Bard as a roaming champion can roam mid, throw down that Tempered Fate, but we also have the Ashe Arrow that can do the same thing. Even Jiumeng can technically walk to another lane, open that ultimate, and try to set up a kill. So a lot of pick potential coming out from both sides.
And you can kind of see a bit of a strategy being built here by LGD that they really want to shut Teacherma down. They really want to focus him out. This is the second time now that they're making tower dive plays onto him.
Yeah, and it's a strategy we've seen work time and time again. And even as we move into the mid and late game, we know that Syndra is not going to be able to go toe-to-toe with xiye in a side lane. So if you can get that advantage on the Ekko start rolling, going to be even harder for WE to play through him in the mid game.
We'll have to see. And let's bear in mind, the mid-game is very much what both of these teams have been about. Or at least, it's kind of been where WE get their wins. It's where LGD have typically fallen off a little bit.
Yeah, and it's interesting because both of these compositions have very similar power spikes, as we talked about. Sure, WE is a bit stronger early, LGD a bit stronger later on, but both still have very mid-game focused champions like Jhin, Syndra, Lee Sin on the side of WE, and Renekton and Ashe for LGD. So we expect to see very high kill skirmishes, tons of action, the whole shebang in the LPL.
Especially when this Mountain Drake spawns. It's going to be coming up in about a minute's time, because when we look at especially WE, they love those Drakes. They love to play around that objective. And quite often, I mean, Morgan built his reputation in the LPL for teleporting selflessly to get into these dragon skirmishes.
Yeah, Morgan is known for that, even not TPing all the time, just sometimes doing a great job to know when, hey, I can give up a bit in my own lane. I'm going to walk over first, make sure we have the tempo advantage to get the vision down on this objective first, and have the favorable position going into the team fight.
Speaking of which, that's exactly what Missing is doing right there, littering wards into the blue buff area of LGD's jungle. And I'm curious if WE are going to commit a little bit harder to this one. It feels to me that it's likely at least, but we'll have to see. Obviously no completed items on either side yet.
They want to, as we've said, they do have a bit of a stronger early in comp. They also have the Herald, so they could put that down to try to pull LGD's pressure elsewhere.
LGD aren't going to go down without a fight, though. Arrow comes across, it's hitting Missing, and immediately they jump onto the spot, bursting down. Suddenly Jiumeng finds himself alone, flashes out of the pit. And with a pick like that, LGD have secured this.
Exactly, just very clean play coming out from Kramer, and this is why we see Ashe is such a staple pick here in the LPL, because you throw down that Ashe ultimate, especially with all the high damage jugglers we have in this meta. We do typically see it paired with the Graves. You saw Missing, and then he didn't. He was gone right away, and now 2 dragons stacked for LGD, quickly making their way towards that soul.
Yeah, the only thing that's missing in that play is the ping that I'm sure the rest of WE spammed on him when he gets picked off that early before the fight kicks off. And let's bear in mind, WE, this is a team fighting team, so getting picks like that early on is going to be an issue. But beishang, he's not looking for a team fight here. He's looking to get Langx out of this lane. Dominus going to be popped immediately. That means beishang is happy to just walk away from this one.
Yeah, but so Peanut is here as well, and I also don't think the cooldown is too big of a loss for the side of LGD. We also do see xiye backing now, so is going to have that TP for if WE looks for plays on either side lane, he will be able to just come back quickly and join in as well.
So all things considered, it's just going to be the plate that was finished up by minions essentially as the minion wave came in. In the meantime, beishang just drops the Herald in the river to go into the mid lane because xiye had actually head back to base. This means Teacherma is going to grab a whole chunk of gold and well read by Peanut.
Yeah, and even Mark doing a great job to roam over as well.
There was a Tempered Fate on the tower.
Ooh, very nice from Mark then. And this is what you want to see from Bard, right? You want to see Bard constantly moving, always interacting with the rest of his team. You're fine leaving your AD carry by themselves. And sure, if you look at the bot lane, Jiumeng actually has a pretty big CS advantage. But when you're winning elsewhere on the map, when you're winning in the objective fights, that's what really matters.
There's that Tempered Fate in the bottom left of your screen. But I have to say, I love the fact that we were talking about the junglers and how these are going to be the guys that you've got to keep your focus on during this series. And both of them are ahead. Like, neither of them is going to be falling behind in the early game because they're not necessarily dueling. They're just making plays around the map.
This is also why we highlighted them, right? Because both of them are the star players of their team. beishang doesn't always need to be on a carry champion. Even if he's on more of a facilitator like the Lee Sin, he's going to do as much as possible to get his team ahead. For LGD, it's the same with Peanut. Peanut is the standout performer on this roster. And, I mean, now it's about seeing who can pull this advantage further forward.
Certainly you give the Graves a bit of an advantage later on into the game. Certainly going to scale better, but this is the LPL. Lee Sin can always be a factor. There is no game where Lee Sin doesn't just have a great time in the LPL.
And we even starting to see LGD hit those item breakpoints. xiye finally getting that Proto Belt, so going to do great in these all-ins. And Ekko really thrives once he hits the 2 items of Proto Belt plus Lichbane. Obviously goes very well with this passive. That's when you start becoming a monster in the side lane. 3rd item, you pick up the Zhonya's, and that's when you're even more of a monster in these team fights. Can create a lot of time, get off many rotations of cooldowns, so...
Yeah, the Zhonya's giving that second invulnerability is just so... It's such a huge difference maker during the fights. Had a surprisingly low amount of turret plates, but now as we get towards this 15-minute mark, it's LGD with the gold lead. So WE not going to have that 90% win rate that we talked about earlier for the 15-minute lead.
No, but still, you know, game extremely close is what's interesting. And ooh, portal coming out from Mark.
beishang could be in trouble here, but he's got the support of his bot lane. And LGD decide this is not the play to make. I think maybe weren't sure if beishang was around, but they are going to deter the play onto this bottom tower. Oh, maybe I'm wrong there.
Looks like
Hang
overall...
on.
Ooh.
This is an overcommitment from beishang right now. He's going to kick flash away. Dodges everything. There's a Lantern. Oh, my days.
And the mechanics on that play were just beautiful coming out from beishang, dodging absolutely everything.
beishang's been having some salsa lessons because the fancy footwork there dipping around the play. That was magnificent.
But even for the side of LGD, though, right, we're seeing them constantly be the aggressors.
Kramer did not win that trade. That was a huge crit that came up. It wasn't even a crit. It must have just been an auto and a grenade come through. It wasn't even the fourth shot. Morgan now going to get absolutely annihilated in this 1v1. His shield was destroyed, and that is going to take him down.
Yep, and you know, we look at the items, right? He does have the Black Cleaver as well as the Executioner's Calling as compared to Morgan, who hadn't finished that Triforce yet, did finally just finish it. So great job by Langx to find the 1v1 when, you know, Morgan is the more hyped up top laner of this split. Morgan is the, I'd say, better performer overall, very young as well, to where Langx going to slow down because xiye.
We've seen him do dives before. He's not going to be able to pull it off this time, though. And Teacherma will clear the wave.
But Langx is seen as more of the, like, reliable. You know, he's going to do his job well. He's going to bring some veterancy. We've seen him constantly hovering for bot side for those objectives, but isn't going to be a standout performer. So great to see him finding this solo kill and showing, hey, you know, I still deserve my spot. Yeah. I still belong in the LPL.
And also that he knows the matchup well, like waiting to get the stun until that shield is up for Morgan and able to go through.
Lead as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at the gold on the left of your screen there. You can see Langx, the most fed member for LGD right now, where it's all about Jiumeng on the side of WE, which is, you know, that's not a new thing for WE. They play around Jiumeng being the primary carry. Everybody else is a facilitator for Jiumeng.
Yep, and we do see Morgan walked over here first, but Langx with the TP.
So Morgan has TP advantage off the back of this play, but it's all about the Drake here. Let's bear in mind, it's an Infernal Soul this game in LGD. Already grabbed 2 Drakes, but WE are not ones to give up the 3rd Drake easily. They always want to play around this.
And for me in this team fight, we really need to see Teacherma step up. He's a Syndra with his first item, the Ludens. He can just pretty much blow up Kramer outright.
xiye trying to find a flank because Morgan's just going to be stopping that play from happening before it starts here. 3,000 on the Dragon. Arrow goes through, and it's onto beishang as well. He jumps out of the main part of the fight, though, and it turns into chaos immediately. Dragon's going to be taken. It's going to be Kramer that grabs it in the end. No kills on either side, and LGD get away with the Drake.
Yeah, beishang almost went down from all the bursts from the side of LGD. We saw that ultimate coming out from Peanut. Almost got him, didn't in the end, still forced him out, so LGD were able to get that Dragon, and now, I mean, 4 minutes and 43 seconds. We're gonna be at Soul for the side of LGD.
Yeah, that is a scary prospect for WE. They can't afford to and ah around the next Dragon fight, because that was not very characteristic of WE to be dancing around it, but not really committing.
But I mean, we look at what's happened in this game so far, right? Morgan is very much behind Langx at this point. Teacherma too afraid to be that damage dealer, but there is a lot of threat on the side of LGD, of course, and Crystal Arrow, Tempered Fate coming out as well. xiye is ahead in the matchup, so also feeling pressure from that W. And it looks like this was a successful formula for shutting WE down in the early game, right? Put Teacherma behind, put Morgan behind. It's like, sure, okay, their bot lane's a bit ahead, but we definitely know they rely on their supportive and facilitating elements of their team to set Jiumeng up to be the carry.
And now, off the back of that win for LGD here, they've got themselves a 1,000 gold lead just as Kramer grabs himself that red buff. And they're going to be able to extend that slightly as they're grabbing a tower in the bottom side. In the meantime, WE is going to answer on the top side with the Rift Herald. But these next few minutes are going to be incredibly telling for LGD fans, because this is the point where things often go awry for this squad.
Yes, it is, but again, they do have plenty of tools to keep making plays. And speaking of plays, I do feel like this is why we've seen Bard come back into the meta, because, right, Bard's not much of a laning champion. Bard does have fear of things like Thresh, Leona, Nautilus, which are all meta. So why is Bard in the meta? It's because we have so many immobile, squishy carries like Syndra, like Jhin, like Aphelios. They get hit by the Tempered Fate, and then they're pretty much just dead. So great job by Mark, bringing out the Bard, making these plays.
You mentioned the Twisted Fate as well. That one felt personal on towards beishang. After the last one was dodged so beautifully, he was like, I'm getting you this time. You're not getting away every single time.
Yep, beishang definitely feeling the heat so far. And I mean, right now, gold slightly ahead for LGD. We do have the Rift Herald for the side of WE, but I'd say there's no great place for you to use it. Sure, you'd want to use it in the mid lane, but now we're at the point where the 1-3-1's going to come out. Kramer's going to be just pretty much permanently mid-clearing waves. Not going to be easy for WE to find this window to use this Herald mid.
It's going to be difficult for them, and I want to visit where we're at in the game as well in terms of items, because if you look towards the AD carries, Jiumeng has now finished 2 of those crit items. Jhin very much the epitome of a crit AD carry, where the more crit you have, the better it's going to look for you. Heading towards that third item will be his real massive power spike there on the Jhin. But it's a very similar story for Kramer on the Ashe. He's just a bit further behind in the build.
Yes, he is. And like you talking about the Jhin, what jumps out to me about Jhin is he really is the AD carry that just hits like a truck with that forward shot. He's like the definition of a burst AD carry, and paired with a Syndra, right? You hit the Scout of the Week, Jhin plus Syndra can blow up pretty much anyone on the side of LGD. I don't think they're going to get the chance, though, with, again, we see the Tempered Fate coming out from Mark. You also can use Enchant Crystal Arrow as a disengage. Xiye is going to be putting up constant pressure in the side lane because he has that Lich Bane that we talked about.
I was about to bring that up because he's getting towards that 3-item spike that you were talking about there as well. When he gets a Zhonya's, he's going to be unstoppable. Morgan is looking for a fight here onto Langx, going to jump straight into the fray as beishang is here to support his top laner. And suddenly Langx realizes this ain't winnable anymore. Morgan with the kill.
Nope, and overall that is good for W to pick up something. Xiye is still on the other side of the map, so he's going to get some damage down onto the turret. But hey, as you said earlier, for W, we take those.
You certainly do, but Xiye is saying the same thing about a tier 2 in the top side of the map right now. If you're going to commit to the bottom side, LGD are happy to answer elsewhere.
Ooh, but yeah, they do have the Rift Herald, so they are going to be able to push in another turret. We do got to remember, Mark has Tempered Fate, so I wouldn't expect this turret to go down. Is it coming? Is it coming? Nope.
He's going for beishang again instead, as Morgan is going to commit to the recall here, but beishang getting chased down, and Peanut's here to try and finish this kill off. Flashes come out. There's a ward hop as well, but there's nobody nearby, and Peanut cuts him down.
And we just saw the value of Phase Rush, and you know, Phase Rush never really got a buff or a change. We just started seeing it slowly more and more in the meta, and it really does seem like an evolution of the understanding of the game, where a lot of these high-threat champions like Syndra, like Graves, like a lot of other champions, if they do have that sticking power, if they have the versatility to get away, get in fights, it is just so valuable.
Yeah, it's the ability to get further into the fight. It's also the ability to get out of the fight if it's all going wrong. Just the ability to maneuver around the play, and especially when we have these teams that do love to skirmish, it can be invaluable.
Exactly. It's very versatile. Rune scales quite well, but on our screen we see LGD picking up Infernal Soul, and at least for the past like 5 minutes, it has felt inevitable with how these fights have been going that LGD would get this one. And now you're going to have constant pressure on both sides. Langx's winning in the 1v1, Xie's winning in the 1v1. And now it's just about Peanut, Kramer, and Mark being that kind of roaming death squad to one side, preventing W from being able to make a play on either side laner.
I'm not really... Was that Hawk Shot that had the vision there? So the combo coming out with the ults, it didn't quite land, but it did eventually lead to the kill anyway. Xiye, in the meantime, gets out on the top side here. But, like, hang on. We didn't really give enough credit here to the fact that LGD just got an Infernal Soul.
Yeah.
Like, granted, it was pretty inevitable with the way that the game was going, but that's still a huge deal here. LGD now are tremendously in the driver's seat.
Exactly. We already pointed out, Morgan can't deal with Langx. Teacherma can't deal with Xiye. It's really going to be about WE trying to abuse windows where they can attack one side with 2 or 3 members, as we saw like they just did with Xiye. But even then, if LGD's 3-man core is aggressively pushing mid, it's going to be hard for you to find those windows.
Difficult indeed. Morgan just going to clear the wave on the bottom side. And Morgan, despite having this first pick Volibear, hasn't really been able to do all of too much. Obviously was into this matchup where Renekton will have some advantages, especially when they were able to get some plays towards the top side early on. But LGD are grouping up right here. There's a lot of pings going out. beishang spotted. Xiye jumps over the wall. Jiumeng, immediate cleanse coming through from him. And it means that WE are going to be safe from the play.
Yep, still LGD get what they wanted. They're just going to control vision around Baron. And no. Teacherma.
You knew where they were, Teacherma. You shouldn't be here. Spotted out by the scatter. And Xiye happy to grab a 1v1. Peanut says no, though, as he snags the kill.
Even Xiye flashing the scatter of the week was really clean to see. But as you said, Peanut not being a teammate, not being the friend squad, as we coined for WE.
Yeah, no, he's 5-1-0. He has 5 out of the 6 kills that LGD have grabbed for themselves. We said he was the highlight player on the squad. I wasn't expecting him to quite be the guy with all of the gold for the team, though. And now LGD, they're like, look, Teacherma's dead for another 15 seconds. Let's just take Baron.
And remember, we said his job would be the harder one coming into this game, not having so many tools to play around. We see WE actually posturing for this.
Beishang steps forward, gets a couple of kicks onto Mark, but this was all a bait. Tempered Fate onto missing here. In goes the Renekton onto the entire squad. And there's just nothing you could do as Langx gets one. Mark chasing Jiumeng down as well as the rest of the team finishes off Teacherma. He just came in and he's out of the play immediately. Jiumeng trying to turn things around, but there's just no way, my friend. Easy ace for LGD.
And that was so close for some of the members of LGD, but still Langx with an amazing TP. Peanut's still full HP, dealing so much DPS. Xiye in there as well. Now it is going to transition to that Baron that we talked about.
And now there's no contest available. Now there's no way for WE to stop this one. So they've already got the Infernal Soul for themselves. LGD with a Baron on top of this one. We talked about how in recent series, the mid game has been the weakness for LGD. That's why the game plan fell a little bit wibbly wobbly. Not today. They've shored things up and they look amazing in the mid game.
And let's even remember, it's not even like they were the ones aggressively making plays. They were just trying to shut down beishang. They were typically the team to come first to Dragon or funnel in getting priority as a team as a 4-man or 5-man squad through mid. Just consistently picked up these Dragons, and that's how they got ahead in this game.
Let's take another look at this fight as well, because WE, they attempted a contest, but it was scattered to say the least.
And this is the Tempered Fate that we talked about, setting up all these plays. Great TP coming in from Langx to disrupt the backline. And it's setting up for Kramer to deal all this damage that we see. Peanut's still in there right on top of Morgan, bursting him out right away. Teacherma almost kills Kramer. Sadly, doesn't go down in the end. Now Jiumeng's all by himself, so whether he died or not, didn't really matter, but great fight coming out from LGD.
He did die, let me tell you.
Yes, he did.
They all died a hell of a death. And, I mean, you already mentioned the fact that there was the Lich Bane, the Proto Belt for this Ekko. Well, he didn't go for his Zodius. He went for a Death Cap with an Infernal Soul. Xiye is going to one-shot people.
Exactly. He went the full-on snowball route. He doesn't care about safety or protection. He knows he can just get in the backline. He feels comfortable with his own skill at using his ultimate. And Jiumeng and Teacherma, as you said, just going to be one shot.
I don't know what there is to hope for here for WE because, you know, I like WE a lot. I've been their apologist many times, but this is a pretty dire situation. Now sieging in the mid lane as Peanut happy to take half of beishang's health just off a little bit of poke. And xiye gets to just push in the bot side during all of this. Just 1 or 2 taps on that tower with a Lich Bane. He's going to be able to chunk it out heavily.
Yep, sadly they weren't able to coordinate the waves to hit at the same time because that's obviously what we want, right? WE shouldn't have a window to send 5 mid, clear that, then send 2 or 3 bot to clear that wave as well.
But Kramer getting a good amount of damage down onto this tower. There's still a cannon firing away. This tower is going to fall down with 1 more auto, and there it goes. The base has been cracked open for LGD, and now xiye has his window if he wants to try and make a play.
Ooh, beishang looking for something sneaky. This is all they can hope for, honestly. They need to look for some kind of sneaky play like this.
You know, it looks really good on paper, but oh my days. Mark, you beauty. Easy Tempered Fate and easy kills to follow as well. There's a tower gone down, missing. Won't be able to escape the damage from Kramer and the slows as well. Inhib is next as the arrow hits straight onto beishang. Has to use his Zhonya's, but it's not going to be good enough. Jumps to the rest of his team. Inhib's taken though. Mark survives. Now GT aren't done just yet. Look at the damage onto Jiumeng. Now on towards the base as xiye rooted under the tower. The tower will finish off 1 kill. So there's a silver lining for WE. And Morgan charging forwards. Maybe they can make something happen here. It's going to be tough, but Langx going to be able to survive for now. Root goes through, hits onto Peanut here. Sonic Wave comes out, but the kick just doesn't do enough here. Kramer will be the consolation prize, but they lost 2 inhibs.
And I think consolation prize is a great way to put that because LGD obviously over-aggressed. They went too far forward. They stayed too long. At the same time, though, they completely opened up WE's base, got 2 inhibitors, and now they're just going to be able to continue to slowly choke out the side of WE. With beishang going down, they can't even try to threaten an Elder, which even if he was up, I don't think it would work. But, you know, the potential would be there to create some more chaos. But now LGD can just wait for those death timers, get off the resets, and honestly, you question if they even should go towards Elder and add in that variance. Maybe they should just push down mid and bot and try to close out the game.
I don't think they're going to do that, though, Lyric. I think they're running straight towards this Elder, because Jiumeng is going to start this one off. And Jhin may not be the fastest at these neutral objectives, but he sure looks juicy as bait. And WE are all collapsing onto this.
WE need to do this, because WE just need to keep coin flipping this game. This game is so far out of their hands. If they get this Elder, at least they're back in it.
beishang finally arriving on the scene, but xiye looks for Jiumeng. Won't be able to get it. Teacherma survives well. 3-man Tempered Fate, but no follow-up onto it. Now Mark having to use the Shurelias just to get back out of the play again.
So it looks like they want to wait for W to come in so xiye can get a great position for his parallel convergence.
xiye would love to do exactly that. His Chrono Break's going to be on cooldown, though, so just needs to be a little cautious. They're just buying time. They don't care about the Elder because Langx has got into the base. Now the fight comes out from WE, and they've got to win this one fast because we do have Teacherma who went back to base. Jiumeng gets 2 kills for himself, and Peanut suddenly finds himself without a team in the back line. Hook comes through from missing. WE get the fight somehow. In the meantime, Langx still in the base here, trying to end things right now as he gets straight onto Teacherma, forcing him onto the fountain, DPSing down onto the Nexus. The TPs come through. beishang is here, doesn't have kick available. Langx doesn't quite have the damage. WE hold on.
And this game is going back and forth. Oh,
wait, what? Kramer finds himself alone, but there's a bear! You can't win that one.
And WE are actually going to get Elder. They are 6K behind. Their base is completely opened. But do they have a chance?
I daren't say it because xiye has teleport. He's got a Lich Bane. He's got a Death Cap. All he needs to do is pull off a sneaky TP, and this game ends.
And, I mean, right now, I have no idea where this was going to go. Again, you should still expect LGD to win this game. The base is open. They have Infernal Soul. You pointed out the TP. Even their Nexus is on like 40% HP.
Let me just point out one extra thing there as well, because LGD have 11 towers so far. WE have 1.
Yeah.
Even if WE gets a full clean ace, it's going to take them a long old time to get to that Nexus.
Exactly. And not even just through turrets, right? Like, they have to push through super minions as well. So, yeah, I'm going to pull down my excitement. That was awesome. That was exciting.
Look, I'm excited that we got to see anything out of WE this game because it was looking pretty doomed, let's not lie. But hey, great play from Langx as well to try and end the game. I'm glad to see him flexing a little bit. Now he's got himself a carry pick because we've seen him relegated to weak side a lot this split. We've seen a lot of Ornn. We've seen a lot of other things up there. I'm glad to see him on something like Renekton.
And it's great to not only see him on it, but to be playing extremely well as well. I mean, almost ending that game outright by himself. The one TP flank in that fight in WE's jungle was also beautiful. And now LGD have this Baron.
Not to mention a solo kill in lane. Yeah. Always adds to the CV.
Yeah, exactly. Always, you know, puts a little metal on the jacket.
So now, WE back to base defense for you. They've got 4 minutes on top in hip, but the other 2 are coming up in the next minute.
And so LGD need to take this slow. They have 50 seconds to wait out for this Elder. Just kind of buff up the waves, wait this out, and then collapse for the base.
So one thing we do have to revisit is the damage that Jiumeng is now going to be kicking out. Because yes, he's going to get 1 shot if xiye gets onto him, but if xiye can't get onto him, Jiumeng is going to annihilate people because there ain't anyone that's particularly tanky on LGD.
Especially Kramer or Mark, who, right, are just pretty much defenseless. They don't have any resistances built. You do feel a bit better for xiye with the ultimate and Langx. Even Peanut is a bit tanky with both the Black Cleaver and the Death Stance, but still, like you said, Jiumeng's damage has to be respected.
Jiumeng is the guy that WE always plays around. He is the egg in the basket, if you will. But he's going to be caught out potentially here. Dark Passage available. Kramer just narrowly dodges the hook. Everything just going wide on both sides.
And Elder's gone Munchable, so this is LGD's chance.
Elder is very much gone, as are these inhibitors at this rate, because LGD don't seem that interested in actually fighting. They just want to slowly siege this one through. They've still got 1.5 minutes on the Baron, and xiye just hit half an inhib in 1 auto right there with a phase dive. WE are running out of time on this one. Teacherma getting jumped on by xiye, but doesn't quite finish the kill. Just to push them away as the inhibs fall once more. WE getting herded like sheep with a sheepdog right here. Ult comes out from xiye as he tries to get onto the backline. Sorry, Jiumeng with the curtain call there. And LGD just playing this beautifully. They don't need to rush. They don't need to do anything crazy. Maybe they do, because Jiumeng ain't done just yet. Teacherma gets onto the fountain, somehow surviving. beishang will not be so lucky, but LGD don't care about the fight. They just want to win the game.
And that was pretty beautiful, like we talked